Are you looking for the best supplement or natural alternative to not only help with your anxiety, but to potentially significantly reduce your panic attack frequency? Well, if so, then this video has got you covered. Hi, I'm Jess. I'm a clinical nutritionist, and this channel is all about optimizing your diet and lifestyle for better mental health. And today we're talking about a very quite versatile supplement. It's a supplement that I've used quite a bit in clinical practice for various circumstances completely unrelated to mood disorders. So this past year, when I came across a lot of research as well as anecdotal clinical evidence on this supplement being used for the management of several mood disorders from depression, anxiety, OCD to PMDD, I was super excited. And this supplement is Inositol. So while there have been some positive outcomes with all of the conditions I just mentioned, Inositol seems to have the most effectiveness with anxiety, particularly for panic attacks and panic attack disorders. So today we're going to go over what exactly Inositol is, why it likely helps with panic disorders, and some cool studies that have looked at this. We're also going to go over some precautions of who Inositol is and isn't for, so make sure that you stick around for that. So let's talk about Inositol. What exactly is Inositol anyway? Inositol, or myo-inositol, is a naturally occurring carbohydrate, so it's essentially a form of sugar that's found in abundance in the brain and in other tissues throughout the body. It plays several roles in the body, primarily as a component of cell membranes and as a precursor for various signaling molecules. It's well known for influencing and regulating the body's insulin response, as well as several hormones and neurotransmitters associated with mood and cognition. So it's primarily used for managing metabolic and now mental health conditions. So it's a compound that's often referred to similarly to like a vitamin, and some people even call it vitamin B8, but it's not officially classified as a vitamin, and like I said, it's actually a carbohydrate made in the body and then found in some foods like beans, nuts, fruits, and some things like chicken liver. So let's talk about why Inositol may help so much with anxiety and panic disorders. So though Inositol has been studied for quite some time, it wasn't until the 1980s where high levels of Inositol were actually found in the central nervous system, and therefore found that it plays a key role in neurotransmission in addition to metabolism. One reason why it started being studied more for mood disorders is because researchers found that those with depression, anxiety, and OCD actually had lower levels of Inositol in their brains. So while there are some mechanisms that still may not be fully understood, Inositol's role in managing mood disorders seems to be primarily related to neurotransmitter function and intercellular signaling pathways. So let's talk about each of those. Neurotransmitter regulation. We talk a lot about neurotransmitters on this channel. Inositol is believed to influence the serotonin system, which is a neurotransmitter associated with mood regulation. Serotonin balance is commonly linked to anxiety and mood disorders. A lot of people just think of serotonin as like our happiness neurotransmitter, but serotonin is actually a very calm, at ease, and at peace neurotransmitter. So Inositol is a precursor for inositol triphosphate, which participates in the release of intracellular calcium. This in turn affects serotonin receptor sensitivity and the availability of serotonin in the brain. In addition to serotonin, Inositol may also impact GABA. GABA is our inhibitory neurotransmitter that I always say is responsible for making us feel chill. GABA helps reduce neuron excitability, and this is why low levels of GABA are often associated with anxiety. Inositol supplementation may help modulate GABA receptors and enhance GABA neurotransmission. So basically, inositol levels can have an impact on both serotonin and GABA. Now let's talk about that intracellular signaling and why it matters. Inositol is involved in the formation of inositol phosphates, so IP3 and IP6. IP3 helps mobilize calcium ions, which influence various cellular responses, including neurotransmitter release and receptor sensitivity. So it's hypothesized that it's really through the intracellular signaling as to why inositol helps so much with panic disorders. Because it's not just influencing the amount of neurotransmitters, but it's helping with how that signaling is being released and then received in the central nervous system. So let's talk about some cool studies that have been done on inositol, anxiety, and panic attacks. So in one study, researchers compared the effects of inositol to an SSRI antidepressant that's very commonly used for panic disorders. 20 patients with panic disorders took 18 grams of inositol every day for 1 month and then took 150 milligrams of the SSRI every day for another month. Researchers found that inositol decreased the number of weekly panic attacks per week by 4, while the SSRI only reduced them by 2. The SSRI also had side effects such as nausea, lethargy, and inositol did not have any side effects. In another study, 21 patients with panic disorder took 12 grams of inositol daily for 4 weeks. Compared to placebo, the frequency and severity of panic attacks significantly declined after taking inositol, and once again, there were hardly any side effects. So these are some pretty cool findings that actually happened years ago. It would be awesome if we could get a more recent, larger study interested in exploring supplemental interventions for things like mood disorders, but we all know how most research gets funded. If you're getting value out of this video so far, I would love for you to subscribe to the channel and join our community of others who are all focused on improving their mental and physical health. So let's quickly talk about who inositol is and isn't for. As mentioned before, inositol doesn't really have many side effects and is known to be extremely safe. But the coolest thing about it is that it's not known to have any drug interactions from studies where it was actually taken alongside other psychiatric medications. And this is really cool because a lot of the times when we're looking at natural supplements, there are things that we shouldn't really take along with SSRIs. So this could be a good option for someone who wants to try a natural alternative, but needs to be a little bit careful about what they're taking. This is another reason why inositol is a common supplement that people use to wean off of psychiatric meds. But definitely talk to your prescribing provider about that and maybe find someone in natural medicine who specializes in that. I don't talk about weaning off of psychiatric meds a lot on this channel because it's 100% something that should be supervised, there should be a good plan for, and you should never try and do it alone. Inositol is additionally great for women with PCOS. PCOS generally has an underlying root cause of insulin resistance, so inositol can help with this. And then inositol has also been shown to be really effective in helping females manage PMDD, which is premenstrual dysphoric disorder, which is essentially an extreme form of PMS that greatly impacts your mood. And I would say if you take inositol as an experiment and find good outcomes, whether it's in terms of panic attacks or just it helps with your mood, I would then further explore whether you might have some blood sugar dysregulation, because blood sugar dysregulation is the #1 cause of daily mood swings that most people completely miss. I actually have a video titled that here. You can go check it out if you want to learn more about how blood sugar ultimately impacts your mood. Though inositol is fairly safe and doesn't have a lot of side effects for most, there is one population that needs to just pay a little bit more caution to it, and this is anyone that's on the bipolar spectrum. It's kind of interesting because there's actually a lot of evidence and studies, like some of the ones we were talking about, that did show it to be effective for those with bipolar disorder. But there was, I think, mainly one isolated circumstance or clinical case where it made someone's symptoms much worse. But that being said, you might just want to be a little bit more cautious if that applies to you. The last thing I want to talk about is dosing. I cannot tell you how to dose something, but with the Inositol, I did want to go over this because the general dosing for just like average supplementation is about like 1 to 2 grams. But when it comes to mood disorders, there's a lot of things where you may need to take a much higher dose in order to reach the clinical efficacy. So this could be a reason why maybe you try something and you really don't see any benefit. If we look back at those studies, they were using 12 to 18 grams daily. So to have an effect on something like anxiety or especially panic attacks, the dosing for that may be closer to that range. As with all supplementation, it can be effective to start at the lower dose and gradually work up so you make sure that you're tolerating the highest dose and you also know what the lowest dose is for you to reach clinical efficacy. If you enjoyed this video, then don't forget to hit the like, and you may want to check out this video up here that's all about the foods that you want to avoid for anxiety, especially if you're someone who deals with panic attacks. So hopefully I'll see you in that one.